Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I have this great team that I always like to announce because God provided me with such an awesome team. I couldn't do this without them. The first is my faithful assistant, Faith. Faith has been my assistant basically since the day she was born. Her dad would bring her. She was like 3 weeks old when she first started coming to church, and her dad would work the soundboard with one hand and hold her in his other hand. And when she was able to crawl finally, she just crawled right up on stage, and we just left her there because she looked like she owned the place. And, you know, might as well. I'd just step over her as I was speaking and that kind of thing. And then we would put her on the podium to do the announcements, and everybody paid a lot of attention because they just loved Faith. She was one of the most beloved kids in our congregation because her parents met in our congregation and they got married in our congregation, and she was the firstborn in the congregation. So she had this big fan club anyway. And then her dad was a tow truck driver, and he used to go to do out of town tows, and he would drop the girls at my place, and I'd put them to work because, there's always projects to be done at my house. And so when Faith was 14 and a half and said, I want a real job, I was like, yeah, come work at my ozone business. I've already seen how she worked. And so she was there with me for a long time. And then the pandemic hit, and we decided to do the services live. And I said, okay, so do you want to be my ministerial assistant? And she said, yeah, I'll do it. So when you say hello, good morning, hi, which is what we prefer, since in a facility I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me, and here I get a number. I don't even get names, so I don't know who's here. Faith is the one that answers you. And as me, and only like twice in 3 years have I had to go back and add something, but I always check to make sure. She knows me better than I know myself, and she's also our soloist. So today we're going to be singing what is this thing called Life, from Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver. So thank you for being here, Faith. I love you. All right. And then there is my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz. And he was my first baby practitioner back in 1998. He started taking classes with me. When did you graduate? 2002?
2002, yeah, or 2001, right before 9/11.
Oh. No, we were in class at 9/11, weren't we? Oh, no, that was the shooting at...
No, we were supposed to be starting a class that day, and we ended up having to cancel the class and do a special service.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. So anyway, he and then when he graduated, he became my board president, and he was my board president for several years until he moved away to Florida, where I wish I was right now. See that beach behind him? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway, we lost the ability to have him be a participant in the service until we went live for the pandemic. And I said, hey, Oz, are you willing to come back and be on screen? And he said, yep, I'm ready. And so here we are. So he is our practitioner of the day, which means he's going to do the invocation, the benediction, and he'll be available at the end of the service for a 1-minute miracle. And I'll talk more about that later. But anyway, I couldn't do this without you. Thank you, Oz, for being here. I love you. And thank all of you for being here too. I know there's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We're really blessed that you're here with us. I want to mention real quickly people that have provided us with music so that we could do a real service and not just me talking for an hour. The first is Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, which we do one of her songs in the beginning, and we're doing one of her songs that Faith is going to sing. But we do a lot of her music. She's given us permission. The other is Karen Drucker, who has been the music director for several of our churches and gifted us with her entire collection of like 20 CDs with karaoke files and everything so that we could actually do the service this way. So I just wanted to put a shout out to them because these ladies are fabulous. And we always advertise their music at the end because really they have awesome music. So There's a watch party button if you would like to invite your friends so they can see what kind of service they can expect on a Sunday morning. And you can chat back and forth with them. It's kind of private, so you're not bothering anybody, but you can answer any questions that they might have about what we're saying. Today's topic begins our Back to Basics series, and it's the first 4 chapters of the textbook, and the first one is the thing itself. So that's all I'm going to say right now. I'll get to that in a bit. Right now, I invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Presence of God, right here, right now, wherever you are, whenever you are. For God is present in all things, as all things, in all space, and for all time. For God is all that is in each of us, right here, right now, in our service. I know that the presence of God speaks to each and every one of us in our own unique ways, and I know that a blessing unfolds from this perfection. I give thanks for that blessing, and I let these things be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. Yes, the microphone is being blasted by the wind. One of those issues that beach, like you're going to talk to somebody on a cell phone, it's just impossible. So thank you, Oz. All right. This next song is the one that I was telling you. Reverend Fairy Lane Silver wrote while she was in her practitioner training. And it's a great reminder that we are all connected to all of life.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I receive, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We
Yes, we are all one in it. All right. Say hi, hello, good morning, however you want to greet us. If we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. Here, I don't even get names. I just get a number. So by all means, let us know that you're here. If you like something you hear, whether that's something I say or Faith sings or Oz prays, use that like button. And if you love it, of course, send us hearts. We love to get love. If something strikes you as really powerful, use that wow button, and that lets us know when we're on track. So we appreciate that feedback. It's really important to us. Without further ado, here is Faith singing This Thing Called Life by Reverend Fairy Lane Silver.
What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? Reuniting with the source, conscious of our sacred force, miracles surround me every day. Trusting faith to pave the way. Trusting faith to pave the way. What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? Waving in our consciousness, using thought to bring success, manifesting with the one. Gentle breeze of spirit has begun. The gentle breeze of spirit has begun. What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? Finding great intelligence, blessings coming from every sense, radiating from one mind. Exalted joy and beauty now are mine. Exalted joy and beauty now are mine. What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life?
Oops, sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay. She was fine until I clapped. Oh, it's all right.
Oh, it's okay, little girl.
I have a Chihuahua. For those of you who don't know, this is Chica. Say hi, Chica. I usually keep her in her cage, but I decided to try her on my lap today. We'll see how it goes. So far, she was just laying very comfortably and just like chilled out, but
It's a lot.
I clapped and oh my God. All right. So thank you, Faith. That was beautiful. I love that song. I love Reverend Fairy Lane Silver. I got to tell you, 20 years ago, but well, probably more like 25 years ago, I guess it was. I got a call from this lady and she said, Fairy Lane Silver is going to be in town and she'd like to sing at your church. And I said, okay, what does she charge? And she said $150. Well, at that time, we had authorization from the board for $25 a week. So I was like, yeah, we can't do that. I'm sorry. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from Elaine, and she's like, I'm here in town. Let me have the address to your church so I can get there on Sunday. And I'm like, she didn't tell you how we couldn't afford to have you here? She goes, hey, I'm doing this opening at a bookstore. Why don't you come and see what it's like? And I said, okay, fine. So we go down there. And I heard enough that I knew that I really wanted her at the church. So I was willing to pay her out of my own pocket because I couldn't go to the board and say, yeah, we need $150 for this one service. It turns out it paid for itself anyway, but I didn't know that at the time. And so she came and did a service with us. And what happened was she did a song, and then I did a little mini sermon based on what she sang. And then she would get up and do a song based on what I said. And then Lynn would get up and do a sermon on what she sang. And then she would do a song based on what Lynn said. And so we had this whole service going on like this. And we sold 35 CDs that day. That was like a record for us. So it more than paid for her. And so it worked out great because we were charging $10 for those CDs. So we ended up with like $350, of which we only had to pay her $150. So that really kicked it in. But we have remained friends all this time for the 25 years. And so when we went live here, she said, by all means, use my songs. And so we have been using her songs all along. And so I just wanted to say that because you never know how God works. Like that was just one of those things that I didn't see the possibility. God saw the possibility and made it happen. And it just worked out great. Because the thing itself really is God. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So doing that song really pulls it into perspective. We are doing our Back to Basics series, which is the first 4 chapters of our textbook. The thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. So today is the thing itself, which is God. I mean, I could end there. I could just say that's the end of the sermon here. But I want to explain our version of God. I want to give the history of how we came to be. I want to kind of give you that perspective. The reason we do the Back to Basics, usually what churches do with the Back to Basics is they do it in September and January to signal the beginning of classes. I feel like it's too much to do it September and January, so I only do it in January as the beginning to the year. And when you look at what Tai Chi masters do, they practice the same 7 moves for the entirety of their life. And what happens is they deepen into those moves. So I look at this Back to Basics series as that. On the one hand, it is a way to introduce what it is that we teach to those who are new to our philosophy. On the other hand, it is a way for those who know these topics or these laws, the basics, to deepen into those. And I don't think you can hear it too much. After I just got through saying September and January is too much. But I think it's, just too repetitious is what I think to do it twice a year. So we do it in January. If you are interested in taking a class and learning more about this, let me know. If I have more than one, I'm happy to do a class and we'll work out whatever time works for you. But I'm not doing it for the class. I'm doing it to start out the new year in a way that helps us deepen into our spirituality. Our movement is called Centers for Spiritual Living. Now, it used to be called Religious Science, and it's based on the works of our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who called it Science of Mind. Now, the reason we changed it to Centers for Spiritual Living is because we would always have to explain to people the non-dairy disclaimers of what we are. So people would say, what is religious science? And you'd have to start out by saying, well, it's not Scientology and it's not Christian Science. But then, you'd have to do that to get to where people were ready to listen to you, because they form these ideas right away that Scientology is what we are, or that Christian Science is what we are. And everybody's afraid of those too. But what religious science is that what Dr. Ernest Holmes' version of what religious science is, was that it was the combination of religion or spirituality. He didn't really believe it as a religion, but spirituality and science. So that when you mix the two together, when you really realize that they both are important and they both work together, excuse me, so that you can teach these principles, then you realize that there isn't religion and science over here, right? So many people these days, especially with Christianity, believe that if you believe in God, you can't believe in science. And that's really not true. They go hand in hand. They definitely do. And that was his wish. The other thing was he originally created an Institute of Religious Science. And the reason he did that was because he wanted people of all faiths to come and learn about the spiritual laws, how to use them, what they are, to learn the power of prayer, and then take it back to whatever religion they originally came from. Unfortunately, a lot of religions do not appreciate the version that he was teaching. And so his followers pretty much demanded that we become a church ourselves. He was pretty much not really into the organized religion aspect of this. Like I said, it wasn't a religion for him. It was a philosophy. It was a spirituality. And what he used to say is that it's religion that's shorn from dogma. We have our own dogma. I really don't agree with him on that. We do have our own dogma. But the difference is our dogma is not, you must do this, you must do that in order to be part of us. One of my mentor ministers, Dr. Fred Vogt, who had the Mile High Church of Religious Science over there on 6th and Garrison. You probably know it as either the Spaceship Building or the Spider Building. But he used to say that we don't ask you to leave your brain in the parking lot. We want you to think, and we want you to critically think, and we want you to experiment with the ideas that we present so that you come to your own conclusion about it. That is far more powerful than faith healing or something like that, where we say, believe this because I say to, right? If you can prove it to yourself, it lands more solid in your body and in your whole physicality. And so we always say, don't leave your brain at the door. We want you to think about things. He was known as the question mark. And I can relate to that because I got kicked out of Hebrew school because I always questioned everything. And the rabbis really didn't like that. And he found the same thing was true in Christianity, that he started out in Christianity and he'd go to these churches and he would question things and then they would kick him out. So he was known as the human question mark. And so I can really relate to that because I do understand that when you question some of these things, you threaten the powers that be. In Judaism, they teach you question everything, and then you question some things and they go, not that, right? I don't know how that happens in Christianity because I wasn't raised in it, but I kind of think it's the same way. Like we want you to question certain things so that you get it solidified in your body, but don't question that, you know. So our teaching is the science of mind, as I said, and we are part of the New Thought movement, which is different than New Age, just so you know. New Thought is about, though on the one hand, it is new thoughts create new realities. So each new thought that you have is creative. And that's what began as the New Thought movement. But the other part of that is that we are thinking different things than was currently acceptable back in the old days. And so the New Thought movement is really, we are one of the pillars. There's 3 pillars. There's divine science, which the original divine science church is still here, like on 14th and I don't remember, like that Capitol Hill area. And it's a beautiful old building, and it was there at least up until the pandemic. I don't know if they're still around. I don't know what happened with that. But they were formed like in the 50s, I'm going to say. And it was the first actual divine science church. And then the other pillar is, Unity School of Christianity. And they're more Bible-based than we are. They really study the Bible and use a lot of Bible stuff. And so they're a little bit more towards the Bible than we are, a little more Christian than we are, but they are a pillar of the New Thought. And then we are the third pillar. The religious science movement is the third pillar of that New Thought movement. So our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, had this great passion to discover and teach the shared principles underlying all the religions and the world's spiritual paths. And so he worked from like 1919 through 1960, but the principles he taught are even more powerful today than they were then. He believed that the universal spiritual principles expressing through this teaching reunite us in the transformational process and healing powers within us and return us to our higher path of destiny. He reminded us to be open at the top because the divine is continuing to unfold more inspiration to us as we evolve. As we are open at the top, we also stand on basic principles. So being open at the top doesn't mean that whatever philosophy comes our way, we grab onto. That's not what it means. What it means is that our experience of God is always unfolding and expanding. And so we remain open at the top when we are presented with new truths. We don't reject them offhand. We actually open to those new truths. Because I don't know about you, but anytime I think I've got this and I'm like, this is it, this is the truth, this is the only truth there is. And then a new truth comes my way and I go, oh, no, that doesn't fit in with what I already understand. But in order to be an evolutionary human or an evolutionary spiritual being having a human experience, we have to remain open at the top to accept in the new truths, because our teachers' experience of God is unfolding just as our experience of God is unfolding. And so everybody's always discovering these new truths, these depths within us. This, as I said before, we deepen into the spiritual principles. And as we deepen into them, we come up with a new understanding. And so being open at the top is really being open to that expansion, open to that evolution, and not being stuck in what we know as principle. And that's the only thing there is, right? Let's see, I already did that. I skip around quite a bit here. Okay, so he originally he was in Christian churches, and he got exposed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, who began to talk about an oversoul as the idea or the concept of God, and the circles, meaning that that everything is circular in nature, that there's a unity in that circle. And the spiritual laws, there was an essay by Ralph Waldo Emerson about spiritual laws. It wasn't until later that he understood that, but it inspired him, and it led him to a deeper searching and research on what he believed. So he started with that inspiration from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and then he ran into a man's writings, who was named Judge Thomas Troward. Now, Judge Thomas Troward was a Christian English judge who was serving in India at the time. And he set himself apart from the other judges because he really wanted to understand Indian culture and the religion that they practiced. And so he really delved into all of that, so that when he passed down a sentence, that was in alliance with what they already believed. And because of that, he was very beloved, because they felt like he really cared about them, because he cared to understand why they did certain things and what was important to them. But as a result of his studying, he found that Christianity and Hinduism had similar things in common. And one of those was this teaching about spiritual laws. So Dr. Ernest Holmes' version of spiritual laws came from first Ralph Waldo Emerson. The idea got planted, and then basically a step-by-step guide by Judge Thomas Troward. And he was so enthused about that work that he ran around the country lecturing on it. That was the first step of what he was doing. And then his lectures were turned into a textbook. So there are so many times, like I said, there's an evolutionary path we're on. So there's so many times when it seems like the chapters in the textbook contradict each other. And that's because there was a newer understanding or a newer evolution of a thought. And so he incorporated all of that stuff that he got from Thomas Troward into his spiritual laws that he taught about in his textbook, or in his lectures, really. Somebody else compiled the textbook from his lectures, let's put it that way. And then when he was running around lecturing all over the country, which when you think about 1919, that would have been a really long trip, right? Everything by train or by horse and buggy or something, you know. Anyway, he ran into a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins. And Emma's life was very different from his, or from most of us. She had studied with Mary Baker Eddy from Christian Science, and the two of them she actually worked for Mary Baker Eddy, and the two of them had a great falling out, and so she left Christian Science and formed what she called a school of mysticism. And in there, she had taken some of the principles she had learned from Mary Baker Eddy, not the rigorous thing that Mary Baker Eddy was about, but some of the mysticism. And she had 12 lessons in mysticism, and people would come to her house and she would teach them these 12 lessons on mysticism. And so Ernest Holmes took her training, and that's how he learned about the love of God. Before that, it was all about spiritual law and how God works through spiritual law. But through Emma Curtis Hopkins, he learned about the love of God and how to have the experience of that unconditional love. And so when you read the textbook, or when you listen to what I'm saying every Sunday, what you're getting is a combination of Judge Thomas Troward and Emma Curtis Hopkins. What keeps us from being like Christian Science is that we are open at the top. In Christian Science, they believe that you cannot interpret the Bible, or you can't interpret any of the teachings from Mary Baker Eddy. It is word for word literal, right? In religious science, what we do is we look at the Bible verses metaphorically as a metaphysical interpretation. And I'll give you a few examples here in a second. But to say that the Bible itself is the only truth and is verbatim what Jesus said is like walking into a library and saying every book in here, no matter who the writer is absolute truth. Because you can clearly see from the Bible that there were more than one writer, right? For instance, Adam and Eve. On one page, it says Adam and Eve hid from God. And then the next page, it says that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing. So there's no way you can hide from God, right? And so you can see that there were two different writers who had a perspective about what happened in the Garden of Eden. Noah's Ark story is another one, because on one page you see that Noah collected the animals 2 by 2. And then on the very next page, like facing it, is he collected 10 of each kind. So which is true, right? It depends on the writer. Not only were there different writers, but there was also for 20 years, there was this thing called the Jesus Convention. And it was these scholars who were, I believe, they were monks, Franciscan monks, who studied every verse in the Bible for 20 years. And at the end of the 20 years, they came up with a voting system about what were actual statements that Jesus made. If it was not something Jesus said, they put a black marble in the table, and that's how they determined that was not something Jesus said. If it was a red marble, it meant that it was possible that he said it, but it may not be accurate. And if it was a white marble, it was actual statements that they believe that Jesus actually said. And there were only 7 of those in the entire Bible. And the reason that they said that is because 50 years after his death is when the Bible began to be written. And when you think about it, it's a little like playing telephone secretary. I don't know. I'm sure you know that game, and you whisper into somebody's ear something. You start out with a statement, usually written on a piece of paper. And by the time it gets handed around all the table and then it comes out, it is very much different than the statement that was written on the piece of paper. So when you think about oral traditions, that's the way it works. Like, I interpret what somebody's saying and they interpret what I said, and so on. And so 50 years after his death, they started recording all of these things that Jesus said. So the Jesus Convention comes in and they look for proof that that is in fact what Jesus said. So that's why we don't really utilize the Bible quite as much as, say, Unity School of Christianity does, because we don't believe that it is verbatim literal. For instance, Luke 13:23, I believe it is, or 26, where he says, if you want to follow me, this is Jesus speaking, if you would follow me, you would need to hate your mother and your brother and your father and your uncles and your aunts and your sisters and your, and when you look at the history of religion, the Jews originally believed in a war god who would smite their enemies. And then Jesus comes along and teaches about an unconditional love that is God, right? So can you picture Jesus teaching that in order to follow me, you must hate anyone? I can't believe that personally. But those are the kinds of things that show up in the Bible where there are contradictions. And so we use the Bible metaphysically. For instance, this whole thing about Abraham and Sarah having a son named Jacob. When we teach that, you will remember that God told Abraham he had to kill his only son, or his firstborn son. And it was a test, and Abraham went and was ready he put him on the altar and was ready to cut his head off, basically. And God said, stop, no, don't do it. I just needed to know that you were going to do it. And, Abraham, being a devout follower of God, was willing to do anything that God asked of him. And so when we look at that story metaphysically, we know that the word Abraham means father. We know that the word Sarah means, I can't think of the word here. Let me see if I can find it in my notes here. Sarah means nobility. And Isaac was the son. Isaac means joy. So when we teach this story as a metaphysical representation, what we're saying is that when you marry a father with nobility, that joy is the what comes from that. And what God was saying to Abraham was destroy the ego, kill the ego, because God wanted Abraham to still have joy, but he wanted to get rid of the labels that were associated with joy. So what God was actually asking of Abraham was to get rid of the ego. But that's the way we interpret the Bible. So it's a little bit different than the other sects of Christianity do. And so the reason I say all of this, the history and everything else, is to get you to the point where you understand that Dr. Ernest Holmes was trying to show us a different way of living. That one of the quotes from him is, there's a power for good in the universe and we can use it. Well, I disagree with him. It's not that we can use it, we do use it, but we use it unconsciously most of the time. And he wants us to get to the point where we're using it consciously. But in order to understand that version of God, the thing itself, we kind of have a different version of that. Now, there's a divine encoding in all of us. Like the acorn, for example, has a divine encoding for an oak tree. It knows when to grow, when to blossom, and when to seed. And it creates this beautiful oak tree from this little acorn, right? With an embryo, the embryo could care less about the past and knows nothing of the future, but it has the encoding in it to create a human that grows automatically, right? That divine energy that created worlds, constantly waiting for recognition and an invitation to create with us, is what we believe God is. And science backs us up. Like I said, this is a culmination of science and religion put together, or spirituality and science put together. Because when they work as partners, you can really see that science backs us up. For instance, when you talk about quantum physics talks about molecules and how quickly they bump up against each other, and how, so if molecules are bumping up against each other really rapidly, you have something solid like this desk. A little bit slower, and you have humans and animals. And even slower, you have air and you have water, right? But everything is made of the same molecules. And there is an intelligence in the universe. This is quantum physics saying this. There is an intelligence in the universe that knows how to make those molecules create something, become something, right? And they don't call it a divine intelligence. We call it a divine intelligence because we believe that that is God in operation. So when you take a look at all of that and you realize that we're made of the same molecules as this desk, we're made of the same molecules as the air and the water, as the animals. When everything is made of the same stuff, we come to the conclusion that that's God's stuff, and that's what we are made of. You see, when you talk about God as a male or a female, what we're doing is we have created God in the image and likeness of ourselves, because we have assigned a gender to something that we see as humanish, right? Really, we are created in the image and likeness of God, because the divine molecules that make up God is what we're made of. And so within us is the seed of perfection. Now, Ernest Holmes was really guilty a lot of quoting things without citing who the author was. Okay. So his thing was, the original life is infinite. It is good. It is filled with peace. It is the essence of purity. It is the ultimate of intelligence. It is power. It is law. It is life. It is in us. In that inner sanctuary of our own nature, hidden perhaps from our objective gaze, nestles the seed perfection. One of my friends actually found where that quote came from. It's from, what is his name? Walt Whitman, from his book, Leaves, what is it called? Leaves of Grass. And he said, in this broad earth of ours, amid the measureless grossness and the slag, enclosed and safe within its central hearth, nestles the seed perfection. So that's where Dr. Ernest Holmes got that quote. But have you ever pondered infinite? Infinite is good, filled with peace, essence of purity, immensity of power. But regardless of our story, divine embedded in us, hidden perhaps from our objective gaze, the lens with which we view ourselves needs a lot of work, because there within us is the seed of perfection. And that's where we start with our philosophy about what the thing itself is. The universe has a pulse and rhythm of its own, and it wants to carry you with it. So if you dance with spirit, just remember to let it lead. Sonia Choquette said that. I don't know about you, but I took dancing lessons with Lynn, and I couldn't let him lead. And I really had to look at that as a metaphor for my life, because I was having an issue with God leading as well. And when I really looked at it, it was about my perception of loss of control. And so one of the things that we need to remember is that God within us wants a better life for us, wants the best for us. And I'll talk a little bit more about the teaching symbol later and why it works the way it works, in the way it works when we get to the third week. But basically what happens is I can be affirming till the day I die something, and if in my subjective mind, which I remember in the past I have said is like a computer hard drive which records all of our experiences and all of our reactions to those experiences, if there's something in that subjective unconscious that is opposed to what we're affirming, it's never going to happen. So we work not only on the affirmation, but we also work with the subjective mind to uncover limiting beliefs and change them. Because ultimately, the thing itself is God working within us. It can't do for us what it can't do through us. So we have to open ourselves to the influx of that intuitive urging within us. For instance, why I'm here as a minister. I was not aware of it at all, but there was something in me that wanted this experience. And so here I was going along, taking classes, and in Dr. Marjorie Staum's class, this lady came in and started talking about these classes that were open to the public in the School of Ministry. Now, I had never even considered being a minister or anything like that, but I thought, oh, those sound really fun. One of them was Cosmic Christ. The other was, I don't even remember now, but they all sounded so wonderful that I really wanted to take them. So I ring up the registrar at Mile High. Her name was Denise, and she was busy doing something. And so I got busy at my desk doing something, got my left brain out of the way. She picked up the phone and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I want to be a minister." And you have never seen anybody in such a state of shock. I couldn't even speak. I was just like, what? And for a long time, she's like, hello, hello. And finally I answered her and I said, I didn't expect that to come out of my mouth. But here I am, because there was an urge within me that wanted something greater for my life, and this was it. And I feel like I was ordained from the day I was born, because that's what my life was supposed to be. Not that I believe in, destiny, but I really believe that was my contract. And it took that jarring to open me up to that possibility. And then I realized that we're human doings on the earth, and all I'm doing is completing paperwork because the ordination already took place. So as I was doing the schoolwork and as I was going in before the panels, I realized that Centers for Spiritual Living were providing me with a certificate for that which was already divinely in my body. That was my seed of perfection that was nestled within, was for me to do my work as a minister. So here I stand today as a representation of how that all works. So I want us this coming week to really focus our attention on that divine within us and what it's saying to us. Last week we did some visioning, and that was really about the same thing. Listening to that God within that tells us a bigger picture than we're able to see in our human reality, in our human understanding or awareness. So this week, let's focus on that, shall we? Let's have a prayer. So in this moment, I tune into the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God. To that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful, wonderful, great, loving presence God is. And I know that is where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am, and every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through me as it does all of life. It is who and what I am. I know that same truth to be so for this wonderful team that God has provided me to manage. For Lynn and for Oz and for Faith and for Karen and Elaine and Tina, because I do know that we are all one. And I know that same ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through all of life is that which leads and guides us as we are human doing this. I know the same truth to be so for everyone who is here today, whether that be in real time or later on, because there is no place where one leaves off and the other begins. We are all connected by it, through it, as it, and that same wisdom of the ages flows through all of us equally. Atakyoyasen, all my brethren, we are related. We are all one. So I bless this coming week, because I do know that there are a panoply of experiences where God shows up to say, I am here within. And as we experience those, we recognize that it is that urge within us that creates our life more perfectly than we could ever imagine. And as I know this, I know that every name that is in the ministry of prayer this week is blessed with that same awareness, because underneath any condition is the reality of God's perfection. And so I pull back the veil and I reveal that truth here and now, and I claim it in their name as good and very good and done. So my heart fills with gratitude to know that this is so, to be of service in this way, as I just let it be. And so it is. Boy, Oz, I don't know if you're listening. I don't know if you remember this. We would gather before church to pray, and our hands would heat up so badly. I just put my hands together, and it's almost like burning myself. It's crazy. Whew. You know that's when the Spirit is flowing.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of Spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of Spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of Spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Faith. Disregard the private chat. All right. Now is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share your gratitude for that which you have already experienced in physical reality, and that which you have created in the mind of God and may not have yet seen in physical reality. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to go to www.oasiscsl.org, and about 2/3 down the page is our offering affirmation, and then underneath that is Contribute Now button. I want to talk just a moment about contribution, because we're not in a facility, so there's no rent, utilities, all that other stuff that usually congregants put their money into. In our case, because we are only online, what you're contributing to is our vision and mission. Our vision is a healed world globally, and our mission is to heal the world one person at a time. And so in order to do that, we have to market to the world, right? We already have people from the UK or England, the Netherlands or Holland, Germany, Philippines, and India. What we'd really like to do is go completely global and have every country in the world as part of our congregation. And in order to do that, we have to market. And unfortunately, that does cost money. So when you hit that Contribute Now button, what you're doing is you're helping us through our mission reach our vision. Okay. All right. So now, whether you're watching in real time or later on, please go with me now to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive, and so it is. All right, hit that Contribute Now button and help us get to our vision through our mission. All right, we have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners coast to coast. Come here, baby. Who serve on our ministry of prayer, they are the healing arm of the church. We call them the God Squad. I love the imagery that I get when I say that word, because the God Squad really, to me, is, marching in and taking care of business, right? And so that's what they do. They serve our church in 3 different ways. The first way is that if you would like prayer for something, you just put it in the comments and they will pray every day for a week on those prayer requests. If you don't want it to be public, you can always DM Faith and she'll make sure the God Squad gets it. The second way that they serve is they're available by appointment for a fee for spiritual guidance. If you'd like an appointment, look them up on Facebook. Let them know that you would like an appointment. They'll tell you how to pay for it. I don't get involved in that. Some people do PayPal, some do Cash App, Venmo, Wise, Zelle, and they have their own business. I don't get involved in that. They'll tell you how to pay for it. Once you pay for it, they'll reach out to you at the appointed time. And you'll get a session for spiritual guidance. The third way that they serve, don't lick that. Thank you. The third way that they serve is what Oz is doing, and that is called the Practitioner of Service. And it's an invocation of benediction and being available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. The 1-minute miracle is not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share with him whatever challenge you're experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. So you reach out to him through video chat. If he doesn't answer right away, it's probably because he's on with someone else. So try back a little bit later. All right, let me see what else I need to do here. I'm trying to rush because, as usual, I spoke too long. I get so long-winded. I don't know what happens to me. Yes, Brooks and Bailey. Okay, so let me get to that. Okay, this mala bead necklace is amethyst, so it's $60. They have all kinds of mala beads from $30 up. They also have mala bead bracelets that are cheaper. The reason I like mala bead, they have other jewelry, but the reason I like the mala beads so much is the Hindus and Buddhists use it to do their chants. They move 1 bead at a time to do their chants. Well, I say that's a great way to do affirmations. As you know, I say do 100 a day. Well, the necklace has 108. The bracelets have 54, so you just use it twice, and you come up with your 100 a day affirmations. You just move 1 bead at a time, right? Brooks and Bailey is available on Facebook, as well as you can reach them through email at brooksandbailey0307@gmail.com. All of the proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue, which is a very worthy cause. Whenever they share that they're going to do a show somewhere, I always try to share that so that it gets out to more people. We have Angel Renee, who has an Etsy store where she sells intention candles and tea bags. She uses aromatic herbs in these tea bags. You put it in your bath water, and it helps you focus on your intention, as do the candles. And then, let's see, what else do I need to do? Oh, okay. So Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver's music is available at the website that's listed on the comments there. It's also listed on the screen. She has a website that she can't change, so she can't put form of payment on there. But she does travel around singing all over the country, and she keeps the CDs in her car. So you can reach out to her through email and tell her which CDs you want, and she will send them out as soon as it's paid for. She's really good about doing that. She's also available on Alexa. You just say, "Hey Alexa, play this song from Elaine Silver." So just wanted to let you know about that. Karen Drucker, her website does work. You can buy it by the CD, by the song, by the songbook, by the karaoke file, by a group of karaoke files in a CD. Some of her songbooks actually have American Sign Language teaching you how to sign that particular song. So definitely check out these two women. You can pay for yours on Karen Drucker's website. We love her chant CDs. So it's Songs of Spirit 2, 3, and 4. But she also has songs that are not chants, and definitely check that out. All right. Then check out our website at www.oasiscsl.org. There you're going to find pictures of our spiritual family doing various events, my ordination, Lynn's ordination, picnics, that kind of thing, decorating the sanctuary for Christmas. And it's a great way for you to know who your spiritual family is. Also, there are video sermons from the last 3 years and audio sermons from years prior. Yes, it's out of date. No, I don't have everything up there. In the meantime, until I get it up there, you can check out YouTube and SoundCloud under S. Tucker. YouTube has the video files and SoundCloud has the audio files, and you'll be able to see that. Also, Facebook saves these perpetually. So if you missed this sermon or missed a sermon and you want to go back and look for it, you can actually do that. All right. I think that's it. Isn't that it? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Let's turn this over to Oz.
It's a twisted one, I think.
I know that right here, right now, that God's presence fills every moment, including this one. That wherever you are, right here, right now is where God is. For God is everywhere and in everything. And basking in that presence, I let go and release for the coming week. I know it is good and very good, and I give thanks that it is so. And so it is.
And so it is. I'm not jealous of you being in your car. I'm just jealous that you're at the beach. But it does work better. Yeah, it does work better. So to all of you, thank you for being here today. We want to see you next week, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, and every Sunday. Next week, we will be continuing with our series. Today, we did the thing itself. Next week is the way it works, I believe. You'd think I'd have this memorized, wouldn't you? But no, I can't ever remember. Yeah, the way it works. So next week we'll be doing the way it works. So tune in next week, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. We love you. Thank you for being here. Bye for now. Stay safe.